What's up, guys? Welcome to brobeatz. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make realistic piano melodies. If you guys haven't subbed already or turned post notifications on, make sure you do so because it does help out a lot. So with this video, our approach is going to be completely different because I do have videos over how to make piano melodies, but this one's going to be like a legit realistic piano melody video. All right, so first things first, let's just grab in a scale and we can go with, let's just do a G minor. Let's name it. And the scale doesn't matter. If you want to follow along, then you can just use the same exact scale I'm using, but let's just use a G minor. So we got keyscape here, and the first thing we're gonna do is just make our chords. All right, so first things first, before we even get to the chords real quick, let's talk about the range. Now, I'm gonna try to go over this quickly because I just want to get started on the chords and stuff, but basically the range, you only got 10 fingers, right? 5 on each hand. Normally, so you can only put 5 fingers down at a time. So this will be your left hand down here, right? If you turn your head sideways, then up here this will be your right hand. So at any given moment, so I'm not talking about like, say you play a chord and then over here you can switch, right? And then up here you could do the same thing or with a melody, right? That's across time. I'm talking about at a single moment, like a single moment. Like from here, like this moment right here, you can only play 10 notes, right? So you have to keep that in mind when making your chords. So if you make a chord, a lot of people make chords like this. Let me actually go in the scale, right? You cannot play this with one hand. You need to probably get some help with the other hand, which means, let's say you even throw a few notes up here, which means you come up here and you try to make a melody with this. That's not going to work out because you got to stretch your hand, and to do the range, you can kind of stretch your hand, your pinky to your thumb, all the way out as far as you can. And mine goes from like here to here. That's like my max. Comfortably, not comfortable. Well, this isn't really comfortably. Comfortably would be octave to octave. I can press any note in between there comfortably. So this would be like a comfortable range from here. And this will be pushing it. So we can look and be like, all right, so I can press this decently. This is okay for me. This to here is comfortably. So now when you put these chords in here, you pull them down. So now you have a chord like this, right? Take that away. And you can play that too with your right hand. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't want to go too much over this range stuff, but just keep in mind that if you want to keep it realistic, that you have to kind of take an account of what your hands can actually do. All right. But I'm just saying in a single moment. So like in a single moment, not over time, because you can obviously change the chords that you're playing, right? On both hands. All right. So this applies to both hands, unless you're just playing a single melody, because you can go wherever you want. All right. So that's the range. So now let's actually get to the chords. All right, so let's go ahead and do these chords. So I'm gonna just start on the G3 and skip every other note within that scale. Skip that one, go up, skip that one, go up. Now we got a chord. So how do you check for realism? Now I'm talking to the people that you just play MIDI. You don't really know how to play chords and switch voices and, you know, invert notes. The casual person has just got a MIDI just to play the melody and maybe a few chords. I'm not talking to the dude that's 60 years, got 60 years of piano on his belt. I'm talking to the casual dude, right? You're not, now I'm gonna try to stretch my fingers as far as possible. This is the most uncomfortable way for me to play. Now, this I can do. I can press anything in between there. So let's mark that down. I just did this for y'all, but I wanna show it in a real example. So now let's pull it to our root. So this is how you check. This is uncomfortable and this is comfortable. So you can comfortably play this on the piano, right? Now, if you pull this middle one up, and people do this a lot, you see people do this a lot. Now you kind of pushing it. You're like, all right, you know, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You could probably do that, right? So that's how you check. Now, if it's, you know, if it's like some up here, it's like, all right, bro, you're probably not going to be able to do that. Unless you bring in your other hand, which will affect your melody because you won't have fingers free to play all this. All right. So that's just how you check. let's go ahead and continue this out. I'm just going to quickly do this because the chords don't necessarily matter. It's what we're going to do to the chords. So play it. Okay, so we got our range. It's kind of realistic, you know, give the benefit of the doubt because it is digital, so it's not that serious. So what we need to do now is offset things. Okay, so you can do it however you want. Now this part doesn't necessarily matter that much, but when playing, most of the time the first note you press might have the highest velocity and then everything else might fall a little bit. And it depends, and you can switch that around. You can make the last note you play, or like this one could be the highest, but it's going to give you a slightly different sounds, right? And if you make this one higher, right? So keep that stuff in mind. That matters. But for now, I'm gonna just keep it simple and just maybe pull this back a bit and make this middle note a little softer. Okay, and then the next thing from here, so we got our timing and we got our velocity done. So the next thing that people forget is, in order to mimic somebody playing it, you need to mimic release, taking your fingers off. So you can't, like, if you play this all the way through, that's not realistic. You kind of want, like when you play a chord, there's a little time for when you release. So I usually do the bass note, or like the first note I pressed, and release that first before everything else. And you can kind of just mess around here. And maybe make them even a little bit closer, because that kind of was too. Right, that's a lot smoother transition to me. All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead and do that with everything else. And we could just even pull this. Now how I'm pulling it, I'm holding Alt and you can just drag it off the grid. So if I drag it like this, it's on the grid, but hold Alt and you can drag it off the grid. So we could do a little bit before, then this one a little bit after. And then let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's try this. Kind of like that. Same thing. So I'm just go ahead and do this just to save a little bit of time. All right, so that's good enough for the chords. All right, so that's one way that you can kind of make them a little bit more realistic. All right, so remember that release, that last part. All right, so let's move on to the melody. All right, so now we're gonna do the melody. Now we're gonna do like a single note melody, right? And then I'm gonna show you how to turn it into like chorus, this whole thing into chorus, so it's more suitable for like a beat. But first things first, to make it a little bit more realistic and just humanized, you want to go to snap to grid, and you want to mess around with different grids. Now I usually just do 1/3, all right, and switch back from 1/4 depending on the type of melody I want. But you can stay on 1/3 a beat because it's still on the grid. Like this is on the grid, but when you go in between, now it's kind of on the triplets, right? So you don't have to switch between 1/4 and 1/3. All right, so let's just go up. If we were to make this a chord, we have our F. So let's pull our F up. And I'm gonna do this first part really slow and then probably just fast forward through the second part just so we can get through other things. So with this, just offset it. And I usually like to make my melody in between or a little below, right? You can see the red right there, just so you can hear it, but it's not too loud. So now we got this. And now right? And now let's switch to this third grid in between. Now, remember the release stuff? You could do this, but I like to kind of mess with the links. So I would like, you could pull this all the way out and then make this stop and then pull that one out. And it gives you a slightly different sound, right? And you can do it like this. Right, so that matters in the realism. So I'm gonna just keep it simple for this. And then we could do the velocity later. So now copy this over because we got a blueprint and we just change the notes. And let's put this on that F, G, A, move it up. And then let's do slightly different timing. All right. So I'm just go ahead and go through the rest of this. All right, so now right here, what we could do is do something a little different. Let's go. Let's pull that up. And then from here, let's go all the way down. So we're just taking the rest of these notes, switching them. Put that on the grid, and I want to change a few of these notes up. I think that's all right. So now velocity. Now you're gonna press Alt R, and then I have my set already to the right. I just like the way it sounds on the right, but it's up to you to decide. So I'm gonna keep mine on the right and accept. All right, so that's the melody. Now let's move on to the support. All right, so now these support notes are really easy. You just place little tones in between just to kind of, and you don't want to do a lot, right? Because it's not gonna sound as realistic. So we can put one here and literally just one down here, the F. And then I like to put these below everything. So if you look, I like to put it below everything so it's kind of subtle, but you can still hear it a little bit. Right? So now another way that you can add, like, you know, not support notes, but you can add like stabs and stuff to make it sound a little bit more realistic. So let's take something like this. And then you would probably change a few notes up like this. Now what we do, pull these up, and all these are the same velocity. So let's change a little bit of those so they're not complete same. Pull these up, and you can even make this one a little bit more higher, and you can move this down. Right, you really got to fine tune it. Probably too much. And this is just showing you other things you can do. You can see it kind of has that bounce just from this one note there. Oh, it's the wrong note. but you get what I'm trying to show you. But yeah, that's just something else you can do, but I don't like that personally. I don't want that on here. I just want it to be simple, and we can pull these back up. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the comparison and everything else. All right, so now the last thing I want to show you a comparison. This is completely robotic, so like, you know, completely synthesized, and this is more like with all the stuff that we did in this video, right? So I'm gonna show you, start from here and let it play into the you can see this part has a lot more flavor than this, right? So that's pretty much like the difference. So you can go even further than this because this is digital. So if you do want to add a few more tones, you can. But like I said, this is trying to mimic your hands actually playing the notes. So you don't want to, you know, try to put a whole bunch of notes. So now I'm gonna show you how to, because this melody isn't really good for a beat in my opinion. So like how you would fix that, if you did follow along, is to make this your melody into like a chord form, right? So you would just take out, basically simplifying it to the point where it's all chords. So let's delete this. So I usually go for my first note I placed and my highest note I placed within my melody. So it would be F for this one. It's the first note for my melody and the highest one. You could go lower if you want to, if you want that sound, but I usually stick to going higher and delete everything else. And then you can pull these over. Obviously you could change the velocity and stuff. All right. And then we could just see how this sounds. And again, we need to adjust that velocity because you also need to mesh these in. And let's see if this note right here will sound good. Just got to get that placement right. So you're just taking the tones you already have. Well, let's play this one first. So we could just keep this kind of pattern going and take this F, offset it a little bit, put the velocity down, just delete this. And now you just got like some chords. All right. So then what you do is copy it, you know, and now you can have like a little full melody. All right, so now it's a little bit more suitable for like a beat or something, right? Or, you know, obviously add more, finish it, add more instruments. But yeah, that's gonna be it. That's how you kind of mimic playing a piano with the MIDI. Hopefully this is helpful. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.